Welcome to the WeBWorK video tutorial. This tutorial is intended for many different courses. All courses involving WeBWorK have similar components, and this video is going to explain some of the general features of WeBWorK. It's very important that you know how WeBWorK is being used in the specific course that you're taking. This information can be found in the course outline. If you have questions on the particulars of how WeBWorK is being used in the course you're taking, make sure you discuss it with your instructor promptly. This is what the main page looks like after you log in. Head up to the course information section in the top right. This is something that you might see has a link to some general information about WeBWorK as well as some general WeBWorK commands that you might use. Be sure to read through the course information section for your specific WeBWorK page. There are two different types of problem sets in WeBWorK. The first type are homework sets. These top three are all homework sets. Different courses may have different names for them. For example, we could have week 1 homework or prep questions or something similar. The second type are quizzes. I'm going to start by talking about the homework sets. The status column gives us information about the due date of the homework set. There are three different types of statuses, and they're all demonstrated here. The tutorial is now open and will be due the 18th at 10:35 a.m. Week 1 homework is not available until the 11th. On the 11th at 10:35 a.m. the status will change to now open, and it will tell us when the due date and the due time are. Practice problems 1 is closed, which means that the due date has passed and the answers are available. Let's look in the tutorial here. This is what a general homework set will look like. There are 5 different columns. The first column tells us the name of each of the problems, and we can select the name to bring us to that problem. It's just a link. Attempts tells us how many times we have tried a problem. Remaining tells us how many tries we have left on a problem. In this case, it's unlimited because it's just a tutorial. It's not worth any grades. If you're doing a homework set that's worth grades, you could have 1, 2, or 3 attempts on a problem. Worth is how much a problem is worth, generally set to 1, and status tells us what our mark on each of the questions is. This is what a general problem will look like in a homework set. There will be some box to enter your answer in. Without reading this question, it's essentially asking us to input what is on the left-hand side here into our box. So we could try something, x plus 1 over x plus 3. WeBWorK has a preview answers feature, and when we preview our answers, it tells us what we've entered and how WeBWorK interprets it. So when we look at our answer preview, it doesn't match what we wanted, and so we can go back and edit our problem accordingly. Bracketing is very important, and you're going to have to get used to how to bracket things. So we could try this, and we can preview our answer again. Previewing your answer does not use any attempts on your problem. You can preview your answer as many times as you like, and it'll give you feedback every time. So in this case, it's telling me that I have a missed closed parentheses, and it highlights the bracket that has not been closed. So I can edit my answer again. I can preview it one last time. Now I see that this matches what I want, and so I can submit my answers. Submitting answers means that you're using an attempt on your problem. So when I submit my answer, it's going to tell me what I have correct and what I have incorrect, and you'll notice that I have attempted this problem 1 time, where previously it said 0. So I could enter something here, and I just want to point out that if I do not submit this answer, it disappears when I leave this page. So if I go to the next problem, for example, and then I go to my previous problem, the answer that I had typed here is gone. In order to save your answers, you're going to have to submit them. So try a problem, make sure you're confident in your answer, and make sure you submit your answers before you leave that page. Now if I go back to the list of problems just by clicking up, it's updated the statistics, so it now has 2 attempts on problem number 4, and it tells me that my status is 100%. If I go back into problem 4, let's make a mistake. So my answer, now I have a missing close parentheses, so it's telling me that on this submission, I received a score of 50% on this attempt, but it does not affect my overall status. So WeBWorK records your highest grade on your attempts. As long as you save your answers by submitting them, you can always leave a set and come back to it as many times as you like before the due date and try different problems. Now let's take a look at a set that's been closed. So practice problems 1 is closed and the answers are available. If we go into a problem here, we'll notice that the options down below have changed slightly. There's still a preview answers button, but we can no longer submit our answers. So once an assignment is closed, we cannot submit answers to be graded any longer. However, we can try a problem. Maybe this is one I had trouble getting, and so I could try it again, and I can show the correct answers and check my answers. And it turns out that my answers are correct. So here's the answer preview, and here are the correct answers. Again, doing this doesn't affect my grade. If I go back to the problem list of problems, you'll see that on problem 2, my attempts are still 0, and I still have 0% on the problem. And this is because it's past the due date. I'm now going to talk about the quizzes. Take Week 1 Test is a link for a quiz that's open. Once we click on the link for the quiz, then a timer starts, and you cannot stop the timer once it starts. So you'll notice up in the top right there's a timer counting down from 20 minutes, and I have now 20 minutes to complete the problems here. The first thing I want to point out is in the top left corner here, it tells you the number of attempts you have on a quiz. Some courses have 2 attempts on quizzes, some courses have only 1 attempt on a quiz. Make sure that you know how many attempts you have for your quiz. All the problems are on one page. Quizzes are generally 4 or 5 problems, and so we can enter some things and try some of these problems. You'll notice that in each problem box there's a preview problems button, and at the bottom of the page there's a preview test button. These 2 buttons do the same thing as preview answers. So we could type something in, sine 2x, and we could preview our test, and that's going to preview all of our answers. And so it shows us what we've typed in as well as how it previews. And just to demonstrate, preview problems does the exact same thing. You can always preview your test or click on preview problems as many times as you like, as long as the time doesn't run out on your quiz. When you're satisfied with all of your quiz answers, then you can hit grade test. In this case, I had 2 attempts on the quiz, and so I've graded my test, and now I only have 1 attempt remaining, and it'll tell me which ones I have incorrect and which ones I have correct, and so I can adjust my answers accordingly and try some different things. I can preview my answers again. When I'm happy, when I have only 1 attempt remaining and I'm happy with all of my answers, I grade my test, and it brings me to this page which tells me some statistics about the quiz, tells me what I received, how long it took, and when the results for this quiz will be available. So in this case, it's August 6th at 5:07 p.m. I'll be able to look at the results of my quiz. Now that we've tried all of our submissions on week 1 test, if we click this link again, it essentially tells us that we've used up all of our submissions and we cannot take the quiz again. This is the version that we completed of the week 1 test, and if we click on this, it'll tell us similar to what was the information that was given to us on our last submission. So it'll tell us when the results will become available, which is essentially sometime after the due date. Once a quiz becomes closed, it looks something like week 0 test closed, and now we can go back and view the results of a test version that we took. So this week 0 test 1 is a version that I took previously, and I can go in and view the results. When I go in, it looks similar to a quiz, and it shows me the things that I had inputted, and I can try some of these questions if I wanted to. And if I scroll down to the bottom, again, I can show correct answers and I can check my test. This feature is mainly for educational purposes. Doing this will not change my grade on the quiz. If we scroll to the top, it shows that the score on this submission is 3 out of 5, but it's not recorded. The recorded score on this test is 2 out of 5, and that's because the test has been closed, and this is just you checking your answers after the fact. You can always view your progress in your homework sets and quizzes in WeBWorK by going to the top left and selecting grades. This shows you each of your problem sets, shows you the score you received and what each set was out of. It also tells you the statistics for each set. So on week 0 test 1, I got the first and third questions right, and I got 0 on the second, fourth, and fifth questions. Finally, you may have noticed an email instructor button throughout this video. This feature may be disabled for your course. Make sure you talk to your instructor about it. If it is enabled for your course, let me be clear, it is not intended for you to email your instructor and say, I do not know how to do this question. If you're having trouble with the course material, you should go see people in the Mathematics Assistance Center to get help, or talk to your instructor directly about the problem face-to-face. The email instructor button, if it is enabled, is for reporting errors. For example, if the question asks you to add 1 and 1 and you enter 2 and WeBWorK is marking it wrong, then you should use the email instructor button. Similarly, if at any point when you're using WeBWorK an error message pops up, you should then use the email instructor button. That is all for this video. You should now try the tutorial problem set and get used to using WeBWorK.